Hello, everyone. Welcome to the between holiday edition of the Wrap Up. Dan Myers, Nick Buckler with you. As always, Dan, we're going to start right into it, and we are going to start with the Detroit Lions. And, well, they got a win over the weekend. They beat the San Francisco 49ers, who are one of the worst teams ever in the league. It's pretty brutal of how bad they actually are. And it was a sloppy game. The Lions ended up prevailing in the end, which was cool. They needed to, but is this a same old Lions to win when the season is over? Caldwell maybe doing a fake punt there, getting a first down, maybe trying to save his job. I mean, is it too little too late for him and the Lions right now?
Absolutely, and if you talk with people around town, it definitely sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like we're going to be maybe quite possibly a new quarterback and without Calvin Johnson. We'll see. Depends who you talk to, but yeah, it definitely is. It's just way too late. I mean, they fired Lombardi way too late in the season. That's more than apparent, and we'll see how it goes. What does it say about Matthew Stafford? I mean, when he's under pressure, he does fine in the preseason, and the beginning of the season he does horrible. But once nothing's on the line, is he a pressure quarterback? And if not, do you keep him anyways since you've already invested so much money? And with that being said, are people more upset with the play or are they upset with the contract? That's two big things that you got to look at also.
It really, they are. There's a lot of things that the Lions need to think about going forward. Obviously, this season, scrap it. The game against Chicago coming up doesn't matter. If they win their 7-9, whoop-de-doo. If they lose their 6-10, it's all draft order, and at this point, a couple spots isn't going to really make a difference. But now what's next for the Lions? They have their interim GM, Sheldon White. What is going to happen with him? They have obviously hired a firm to help them in their quest for looking for another general manager. And I'm going to give you my list of what I think what's next for the Lions, and that's going to start with hiring a GM. I put together a list of candidates that I think could be the right fit for the Lions moving forward as a GM. And I'm going to start with a guy that not many people are talking about. He's the Director of Football Operations and Business Administration for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been there since 2001. His name's Omar Khan. He's 38 years old. He's but he's been a part of 2 Super Bowls. They made the playoffs almost every year that he's been in the Steel City. But I think he's a guy that could take this team. He's been the right-hand man to their GM. He's been working with their ownership, hired their coaches, assembled great teams, and I think he could be a great fit. And another guy is Chris Ballard, the football operations director with the Chiefs. This guy, maybe not so much, but he's been there for quite a lengthy bit of time, 46 years old, and he interviewed for Chicago's job last year, didn't end up getting it. But he's another guy these are guys who are coming from winning organizations. You can't take a former coach or a former player and give him his chance at it. You need a guy from one of like the top 6, top 7 kind of organizations who have been there, who have done it. And I think another guy's Eric DeCosta, the assistant GM over in Baltimore. He's only 44 years old. He's been there since 96, so he's been there almost his whole professional life. He interviewed for Seattle's GM spot when it opened back in 2010. And the last one is Elliott Wolf. This guy might be a long shot because he's only 33 years old, but he's the player personnel director for the Green Bay Packers. And that's a great organization to come through when it talks to winning, and it will be a good team to kind of take a guy away from because they're division rivals. He joined them back in 2004. Philadelphia requested an interview last year, however it was denied for their GM spot. But those are guys who I think are from winning organizations who are right on the cusp. They're next in line at their respected organization, and I think they all deserve a chance here in Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said with the Packers, Elliott Wolf. He is coming from a winning organization. Granted, it's not the best this season, but that's more for injuries as far as the Packers are concerned. So, yeah, the whole taking chances thing, it just has to go out the window. It's been way too long. The fans are way too upset. And you got to just start making moves now. I mean, you're just going to stand still if you don't. And you absolutely just have to get something together. This whole experimental phase is over and done with. We've been dealing with that for a long time. And I like where you're going with the Packers organization GM. Granted, not too many GMs are that popular, like you might hear in the NHL or MLB. But we can't really experiment anymore. We got to get this going. We got to right this ship right away. It's just been on the back burner for way too long, and the fans deserve better than that.
This is a football town. I don't care what anyone says when it comes to, oh, this is hockey town. Obviously it is. But what fans dying need is for a competitive football team, and they've been right on the cusps for so long. And you see in 2011 when they go 11-5, and then last year how they made the playoffs, and they're right there. They have some talent. It's just a matter of surrounding the talent with good leadership in the front office and coaching staff, which they have never been able to do. They thought they did back with Mariucci, and then they got Rod Marinelli, and the list goes on, and Dick Duran and guys like that. They need to just start up top, and I really like what Martha Ford has done so far since she's kind of taken over the reins of this team. But I think you need to go let the GM that they do eventually hire, hopefully it's not Sheldon White and they go with someone outside. I think you need to clean complete house. So step 1, hire a GM. Step 2, have that GM reevaluate the coaching staff and fire them. Caldwell, gone. Reevaluate Terrell Lawson. I think he's the only one with any type of potential, but I still think he would have to be fired as well because he is a part and a product of the former Lions. You need to just get all of the baggage and all of the dead weight gone and start your coaching staff and your front office from scratch and let them build a competitive team.
Yes, absolutely. To see Caldwell go really wouldn't hurt me. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. I mean, aside from the fact that it just seems like he's phoning it in every press conference. I mean, I'll be 30 seconds in and I'll already be sick of hearing him talk. Aside from the people consistently mashing their keyboards during the press conference, if you've listened to it, even if you're not listening to it on high definition headphones, you can hear it through the radio. And you can tell that the media there is sick of hearing the same old answers. He's just phoning it in. It doesn't seem like he's taking it seriously. He obviously has to be there. And if I had $1 for every time he says that's personal, or that's I'm not discussing that, or all the cliches he likes to throw out there, I'd be throwing my head out there for the next GM because I'd have that much money. But it's time to see him go. I think what really was the final sword was the whole Lombardi issue. He waited way too long to get rid of him. And the fact that he's not even acknowledging that was a good firing, that says a lot. And it says a lot about what he thinks about the job, at least in my perspective.
There's no burning fire or urgency when it comes to Jim Caldwell. He's a robot. He's the worst. You're hearing his press conferences are just dreadful and, just awful, and they hurt you. It's like,
you get upset. I get infuriated.
I get, for lack of a better word, I get pissed off, Dan, and it's bad because he is awful, and he's a puppet, really. He's the worst. He's thinking, and I was listening to an interview with him on the radio with Jeff Rieger, 97, won the ticket. He was asking him, okay, coach, my final question, I'm expecting a child. Give me some fatherly advice. What is it like? And the robot strikes again. Come on. Give the guy a father-to-father advice. Well, when I had, my kids, it's going to be the greatest feeling in the world. Treat them well. They're a spitting image of you, so you have to, be in the right state with them at all times because they're going to pick up some things that you may not think that they're going to pick up. Come on, man. Just be like, dude, it's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. I mean, I felt like Rieger's head was hitting the mic. It's like, dude, come on, man. Go away forever. Oh, he faked a punt in the San Francisco game, Week 16 at 5-9. I don't care. Nothing to play for.
It's not that big of a risky move or a heroish
Dan
move.
Could beat San Francisco.
Yeah.
They're the worst. But next on the list after firing everyone, what would be decide on Matthew Stafford, all right? There's been a lot of talks that, get rid of Stafford, get him for some draft picks, sign a free agent, or draft a quarterback. Okay, let me scratch one right now. Don't draft a quarterback. There's none worth drafting. You say what you want about Connor Cook. He will not be a good NFL quarterback. And to be honest, I think he's been inconsistent at the college level. That might get me in trouble with some of my state friends, but I don't think Connor Cook's going to be a good pro quarterback, nor do I think he's one that you're going to draft and get rid of your franchise quarterback for at a time where I think he's one of the better quarterbacks still in the league. He takes a lot of pressure, but come on, fastest quarterback of all time to 25,000 yards. He's the youngest player to throw for 5,000 yards in a season and one of only 5 quarterbacks to ever throw for 5,000 yards, with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, and Drew Brees. And now, him, Matthew Stafford. So I've compiled a list, Dan. I have rated every quarterback in the NFL. Grueling statistics. I was up countless nights putting this list together. And I've ranked the 32 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Let's hear them.
I'm going to start at the bottom. Now way up. Going to go down. And there's 3 teams that are at the bottom that I just put their team's quarterbacks because it's been a debacle all year. And I'm going to start with number 32. The San Francisco 49ers quarterback situation is the worst. They've dealt with Blaine Gabbert and Colin Kaepernick this year, both dreadful. 31, the St. Louis Rams quarterbacks. Case Keenum and Nick Foles. Dreadful. They've had no passing game all year. 30, the Dallas Cowboys. Tony Romo's been decent, but here comes Kellen Moore. Here comes Matt Castle. Here comes whomever. Here comes Johnny Schmobag. They're dreadful. Dallas, worst team in the NFC. I love it. Moving on to quarterbacks with names, the 29th ranked quarterback, Michigan State's product, Brian Hoyer and the Houston Texans. Disappointing. When you have DeAndre Hopkins and no one else, you need someone who can sling the rock. And I think benching Ryan Mallett was the worst thing they could have done. Johnny Football comes in at 28 with the Cleveland Browns. I did not put Josh McCown in there because I think he's a little bit better than Football, but didn't quite crack the list. Manziel, he has targets. He has Travis Benjamin. He has Gary Barnidge, the tight end. Can't use him. Cleveland sucks. Moving on. 27, the rookie, number 1 overall draft pick, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, famous Jameis Winston. 27. Just hasn't been able to execute. Say what you want about your fantasy team. Oh, he got me 40 points once. I don't care. The team's a dumpster fire. Moving on. 26, Jay Cutler. Chicago Bears. Jay Cutler comes in at 26 on the list. Chicago, for the weapons he has in Alshon Jeffrey and Matt Forte, Jeremy Langford out of the backfield, and Martellus Bennett, not executing, not a good quarterback. That's why he's 26. Moving to 25, my fantasy quarterback, that's right, and I ranked him 25th, Sam Bradford. Awful. Had a good game against Washington. Doesn't matter. Team doesn't make the playoffs. Chip Kelly will be fired. Moving on. 24, the second overall pick in the draft, Marcus Mariota from the Tennessee Titans. I think when he's been healthy, he's been a good quarterback. Hasn't been healthy, doesn't have a good team around him. I think definitely room to grow next year. 24th on my list. Sorry, folks. Marcus, 24. Dan, I've just rattled off 8. What do you think about those so far?
I think they're strong so far. I mean, I love what you said about the Texans, their quarterback situation, and then obviously with Tony Romo being hurt this season. I am seeing a little more improvement with them, but I'm not a fan of the Cowboys at all. I just, with their a lot of their newer players off-field actions, I can't stand them. So aside from that, I totally agree with you. It was just like you said, they are a dumpster fire amongst other teams, and it's pretty bad. But you're spot on right now.
Yeah, notice I haven't said Stafford yet, and a lot of people are like, well, he's the worst quarterback in the league. Let me tell you something, folks. He's not. And am I his biggest fan? Absolutely not. I went to the game yesterday, didn't wear his jersey, and I own that. He's the only Lions jersey other than Dre Bly that I own. And I elected to just wear neutral. I wore a nice Warrior zip-up, making me look like a hockey player, beer league, and I cheered for the Lions. I had Matthew Stafford and Golden Tate going for FanDuel, free league, of course. Gambling's illegal. And cheered for Golden Tate. He only had 4 catches. Thanks a lot. I'm going to pick back up to the list at 23, and this one might offend some people. Eli Manning comes in at 23. And a lot of this is just because of the game I watched last night against the Minnesota Vikings, where he threw not 1, but 2 pick sixes. Eli, for the weapons he has, should be way better. The Giants should be a way better team. I feel bad for Tom Coughlin, the head coach, because I think he is a good coach. And when you had Victor Cruz, he's been hurt, Hakeem Nicks, Larry Donnell, obviously Odell Beckham, and Ruben Randall, and they can't win games. Sorry, 23rd. Number 22, he had some fantasy value this year, but I don't think he's a good quarterback. He may be a good athlete, not quarterback, Tyrod Taylor of the Buffalo Bills. 21 on the list. Okay, we're going to go to Alex Smith, and the Chiefs just clinched a playoff spot last night with a win, but I don't think he's a good quarterback, hence why in 2014, the Chiefs were the only team in the NFL without a quarterback throwing a touchdown to a wide receiver in an entire season. Alex Smith, for a number 1 overall pick in 2004, comes in at 21. 20th on the list, Ryan Tannehill of the Miami Dolphins. Underperforming, all I can say, number 20. And he's a guy that a lot of people say, well, I'd rather have Tannehill than Stafford. Bye. Moving on. 19, he's been injured a little bit, but I'm still putting him here. Joey Flacco. Don't like the guy. Don't like the Ravens. Like Harbaugh, don't like the team. He's been dealing with injuries all year. Steve Smith gets hurt. His running back gets hurt. He gets hurt. Comes in 19. Definitely a top 15 quarterback, though, in the league, but not on Nick's list, 2K15. He comes in at 19, Steve Yzerman. 18, another playoff quarterback, just clinched a spot this past weekend. Kirk Cousins, Michigan State, comes in at 18. He's too inconsistent to put any higher than that. He'll have a great performance like he did, 4 touchdowns this week. Next week, probably follow it up with 4 interceptions. 18th on the list, definitely the quarterback of the future there. He will be a free agent at the end of the year, and I'll talk to you about some rumors about him coming up on this edition of the Wrap-Up. But the list must go on, folks. Teddy Bridgewater clinched a playoff spot Sunday. He's not the best quarterback, but he's a decent game manager. He can beat you with his feet. Number 17. And I'm going to get to one more before we get our top 15, and I'll get your thoughts because, Dan, I've just been talking way too much. I'm going to need to quench my palate here. After Bridgewater comes to 16, Blake Bortles. Shocker. Jaguars make the list at 16. Bortles has been good. He was a first-round pick a few years ago. He's got weapons. He's got Allen Hurns, Allen Robinson, Julius Thomas. Bortles definitely going to be a top 10 quarterback within the next couple of years, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I found reoccurring with what you were talking about, too, is these teams, they have talent, but they're not performing. Yet they still manage to pull off wins. Maybe they're not pretty, but they're still pulling off wins. That sounds familiar. How many times have we been talking about how Stafford's got the talent? He's got it. It's supposed to be there. You know, he's got people to work with, and it's not performing. So I see, not the for the halfway fans, the Lions, you'll hear that a lot. The only difference between the Lions and these other teams is the Lions can't pull off a W. And they do have talent on the team, and they can pull the trigger, but they don't. And, I mean, it's not like it's just, a Lions curse. Yeah, we've had some unfortunate incidents, but so do other teams, and they're still pulling through. Not super strong, but they're pulling through strong. Yeah, I love as far as your list where everything's at right now. Now I'm really excited to see the top 15.
Top 15 here.
This
Stafford's still on the board. Some haters out there are going to be like, oh, Stafford's garbage. Well, folks, he cracked the top 15 on my list. As a matter of fact, he's not even number 15. That's Phillip Rivers of the Chargers. Now there's some people out there who say Phillip Rivers is the best quarterback in the league. Oh, that's funny. He won 4 games this year with his high-powered offense. Incorrect.
How's he doing for you?
How's that working out? You could be in denial, and I'm thinking of one person off the top of my head right now who thinks Phillip Rivers is like some sort of god. No, I think he's arrogant, and I think he doesn't play a respectful style of football. Therefore, I hate the Chargers. Rivers, 15 on the list. 14, Derek Carr of the Oakland Raiders. This guy, I think, has got a lot of upside. He's got some good weapons around him. He's got Crabtree. He's got Amari Cooper. They got a good rookie running back in Latavius Murray. And I think the Raiders are on the rise, and this year they could go 8-8. That's definitely good for his first year, really being the quarterback and having the rookie running back and the rookie receiver in Amari Cooper. That's why Derek Carr's 14 on my list. Moving on to 13. This one, Peyton Manning. Obviously he's hurt right now, and Brock Osweiler's done quite a good job in Denver, but Peyton Manning, before he got hurt, was averaging only 227 yards of passing, throwing a lot of interceptions, not that many touchdowns. He had more interceptions than touchdowns in his time this year. Now, maybe he's battling through injuries. Obviously, he's getting up there in age. Could be the last year of his career, maybe one more, but Osweiler's definitely done a great job. Peyton Manning comes in at 13 on my list of the top quarterbacks of the year. Number 12, Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, not Matthew Stafford. Stafford's still on the board, and we're here at number 12, where Matt Ryan chimes in. Definitely a great start to the year for him. They went 6-0 since they did just beat the the Carolina Panthers this week for their first loss of the year. and now are 8-7. They are now 2-7 since starting 6-0. Definitely disappointing when you have Julio Jones and Roddy White and Devontae Freeman, the running back sensation who's emerged this year. Matt Ryan comes in at number 12, and that gets us to number 11, where I place the Lions' Matthew Stafford, 11th best quarterback in the league. And folks, he could have been between 8, he could have been to 15. I put him at 11, and let me tell you why. Weapons. Sure, his accuracy's off, and he's definitely picked up his ability with his feet this year. He's been able to scramble out of a lot of pressure, which we hadn't seen in years past. He's managed games a little bit better, and this play style with Jim Bob Cooter gets his completion rating higher. But I would like to see him throw the ball down the field more, which he really has gotten away from since Lombardi and Cooter have been here. But now it's a lot of screens and quick slants, which I like that style. Move the ball, get receptions. Definitely room to grow, and that's why I think they should keep Matthew Stafford instead of dealing him for draft picks. But the list must go on. But first, do you think that's a fair spot to put Matthew Stafford?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he shows potential. He's got records for the organization, and I think that's the perfect spot. So you can sort of say he's just above a top 10 quarterback right now. And I think that goes to show, that sums up Stafford's career right now. Yeah, he's got potential to be a top 10 quarterback, but he can't always pull the trigger. He can't always get the right, improvements, but he has been improving. I like what you said with his footwork. That is true. When we were at this Thanksgiving game, you definitely noticed a lot of his footwork was in action. It has been improving. And you know what? One thing that I like about him, too, is a gunslinger. One of my favorite all-time QBs, Brett Favre, was a gunslinger. I love seeing that style. Maybe it won't work for certain organizations, and obviously, that's apparent here. But if we could get that working, that would just be perfect. But yeah, I think that is the best spot, just above the top 10 spots. But he does have potential to work his way into that elite top 10.
And now we have reached the top 10, where I place number 10, Russell Wilson, one of the best game managers, a Super Bowl champ. And I'm putting him at number 10. He's definitely emerged as a passer in recent weeks, to Doug Baldwin especially. And that's why he's at number 10. A surprise here at number 9, I'm putting Ryan Fitzpatrick of the New York Jets. Geno Smith doesn't play at the beginning of the year with a broken jaw. Fitzpatrick comes in, steals the show. He's got Brandon Marshall, he's got Eric Decker, and he's got spot number 9 on the list. Number 8, Ben Roethlisberger. I think when healthy, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Now maybe had a rough week 16, in their loss to Baltimore, which could have cost them a spot in the playoffs, and it looks like it may, as I think the Jets are going to steal that last AFC wildcard spot. But Roethlisberger comes in at number 8. Number 7, Aaron Rodgers. This might be low for people, but folks, I had him on my fantasy team. He was in the mid-200s in yardage. Now, his interception numbers weren't that high, but his offensive line has underperformed, to say the least. And that's why the Packers are going to be playing for a division title on Week 17, when normally they wrap that up closer to Week 12, Week 13. Aaron Rodgers comes in at number 7. Number 6, Drew Brees. Rough start to the year for him, but since Week 10, he's been lighting it up. Touchdowns for days, yardage is through the roof. Drew Brees, number 6, on a disappointing year for the New Orleans Saints. However, I'm going to come in with Andy Dalton at number 5. I had him on my fantasy team as well, and I think he's been a great surprise. Andy Dalton on a playoff team in the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals. Andrew Luck coming in at number 3. 4, rather. I can't even count. I'm all over the place. Andrew Luck didn't play much this year, but I still think he's one of the better quarterbacks, and he's going to be an excellent quarterback in this league. I'm putting him at number 4. People, tweet at me if you don't like that, at Nick Buck. Holla. Number 3, Cam Newton. I don't think he's top 1, top 2, because I don't think he's an all-around quarterback. Now, he has tried to prove that in recent weeks, slinging the ball to anyone who's wearing the black, teal, and silver, but he comes in at number 3 on a great year for the Carolina Panthers. Number 2, Dan Myers, I got Carson Palmer. He's led Arizona to a 13-2 record through 15 games, and they could have the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs should Carolina lose next week and they win. I like Carson Palmer and what he's revived this team. Got Larry Fitzgerald playing well. He's got John Brown, Michael Floyd, David Johnson. He's making these guys. He's doing what the number 1 quarterback does. He makes players, not big name guys, big name. Tom Brady, number 1. still doing it with all of his receivers out. Gronk missed some time. Edelman's still out. He's got no running game. They had to sign Steven Jackson this week. Amendola's been hurt. Tom Brady, number one. Dan, how do you think of that?
I like it because we're not talking all time as far as what quarterbacks we have going on right now. We're talking what they're doing this season and what they haven't been doing this season, and I think that's perfect. I think you nailed it right in the head. Little discretion with Rodgers and Newton and Breeze that between that 7 and 4 spot, but aside from that, that's just minor hiccups. I mean, and anybody can disagree with that. You're going to get that. So, but all in all, I think it's a terrific list and great job.
Yeah, the countless sleepless nights. Overall, the Lions just have to retool. And I think that list was mainly to just tell everyone, hey, folks, Stafford isn't as bad as you think. Before we say goodbye for the day, I want to talk a couple minutes of Red Wings hockey.
Absolutely.
Red Wings now 1 point behind first place. They held first place for about 12 hours. But the Florida Panthers get a win. And between that first spot in the Atlantic Division, which are now the Florida Panthers at 44 points, Detroit right behind them with 43 points, all the way down to number 6, 41 points. That is 3 points, 6 teams. So you could be 3 points out of first place and you're out of the playoffs. So that's just the parity of the division right now. Tampa Bay's been playing better. Florida Panthers obviously playing better. Montreal been playing worse. Boston's lost a couple in a row, which is good for Red Wings fans. Ottawa's been playing .500 hockey. Wings need to keep winning. They got a little bit of a road trip before New Year's Eve when they play the Pittsburgh Penguins, Dan. But I think the future's bright for the Wings, at least this year. People can say what they want with all the overtime losses, but they still get points in those, and that's why the NHL is important to get any kind of points you can. Before we go away, Eric Tangradi has been recalled from the Red Wings. 13 goals in Grand Rapids. He's 26 years old. He's been a little bit of a journeyman so far in his career. He's willing to drop the mitts and fight. That's what I like about him. He's a big, physical guy, puts the puck in the net. 143 games of his NHL career. Great pickup for the Wings. Great call-up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, definitely impress us. We'd love to see you stay. We love a guy, well, the Red Wings fans and possibly some of the organization, you know, they want a guy that sticks up and drops the mitts. We love seeing that, and we need it. We need our finesse guys to be protected. So absolutely make an impression, stay on the roster, get it going, and start a 2016 with a great start, going strong like you have been.
Yep, that was pretty much a Lions edition.
It
got carried away, but it had to be done. We had to get our feelings out there. If you don't like my list, if you don't like the candidates I put together, get at me. We'll get you on the show. We'll have a good, healthy debate. Love to hear from you. At Nick Buck on Twitter, at DMyers182 on Twitter. That's right. Hit him up. He won't respond for a couple days. He's not a big twit kind of cat, but I am. Holler at me. For Dan Myers, I'm Nick Buckler. Thanks for watching another edition of The Wrap Up.
And Happy New Year.